We're back another time with some more coffee. It's going to be my third or fourth cup of coffee. I don't know. I'm not counting. This is my favorite cup. It says coffee all over it, and that's how I feel inside right now. Coffee all over. Thank you for being here. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm DeltaTangoMike, and this is Coffee Break with DTM. And I did not mention that my awesome guest is Al Stewart. He says Alfred. I say Al. And I think I met him. I met his dad. I met you when I met you. I met your dad. Yeah, it's a long time ago. It's an awesome creative person.
2012.
2000. You remember?
Because that's when I came back to America.
Oh, really? All right, let's go ahead and get started. We're here. Welcome everybody for another edition of Coffee Break with DTM. Let me sip a little bit of my coffee. If you're still drinking your cup of coffee, go ahead and get a sip. Delicious. And let me introduce to you Al Stewart, a.k.a. Indigo Ink. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing good.
Let's start with that. You said when you first came back to America in 2012. Where were you?
I was in Japan.
Doing what?
Teaching English.
Teaching English in
Yes,
Japan.
sir.
How long were you there?
About 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's why you and Josephine were just going on and on and on right now.
Just a little bit.
A little bit?
A lot of it's gone. It's been a while since I've had to speak it like all the time, you know. So I never really was that fluent. I just didn't want to study. I hate studying. So I kind of learned like the kids do. You know, I picked it up as I went. Learn the alphabet and then learn the phonetical sounds of the characters, and then we just got. Japanese is actually a pretty simple language.
Okay.
It gets complicated, especially when you start to try to learn kanji. And I didn't learn kanji.
The writing. That's what you call the writing.
Yeah, some of the writing. They have several different types. It's a whole different type of conversation.
They have their okay, well, that is going to be good enough for us to understand what you said about 2012 because anytime I think about you, I think about your dad. He came up to me. We were doing a drawing session, I think, that day.
Yep.
He came up to me. He said something to me, and then he said something about my son. And I was like, how you got an old grown son? Not that you weren't old, but you were like grown. And I was like, all right. And so his name is Alvin. No,
yes,
Alvin Stewart.
Exactly.
Yeah, Alvin Stewart.
Yeah.
And
a lot of people confuse that.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I do remember that.
Excellent memory.
And I was like, that's cool. And I was doing a lot of art shows in those days.
Right.
So that's how. So it's kind of a little. Everything gets lost, but I do remember that moment because it was father and son. I was like, oh, you both artists. Right. That's great. Right. So tell us about your beginnings as an artist. When was your first creative experience or memory?
Man, like 3 or 4 years old.
3 or 4 years old.
Because as you're saying, you met my father. My father has always been an influence on me, and I think that's a blessing in itself. My whole family is basically creatives. My parents met in art class.
Really?
In college, which is
what?
the thing.
So,
there was always creativity around. My father, he had a group at one time that was making a comic book series, and so I was always like sitting on the stairs, you know the old TV shows and movies where they always had the kids sitting on the stairs looking through the thing, trying to wait for Santa Claus coming in. We didn't celebrate Christmas, so my Christmas was his comic book friends coming over and discussing comic books and doing stuff like that.
Nice.
So that was my thing, and so I started drawing like characters and little vehicles. I was listening to things that they said, and I said, "Hey, I got a character for you. How about this one?" My father, he would always take some of my drawings and then make it look so much better. I think that kind of inspired me to keep on going. And so, like around 3 or 4, then started school. And going to elementary school, always got in trouble for drawing too much.
Yep.
I had some anatomy books confiscated.
Things like that. That's what you call them references?
Right. So Pops would come in, he'd complain and be like, it says anatomy study on it and stuff like that. So, yeah, it was, and I had a lot of free time because the way I was raised, we didn't really celebrate birthdays, Christmas, and most man-made holidays, things like that. So, yeah, I would draw a lot. I always drew. I draw a lot less now, which is kind of sad, but then again, it's all right.
You draw a lot less?
I draw a lot less.
Man, How's our sound? Does that sound good? Let me check with our director because I feel like your microphone might be a little extra far. We didn't get it. Oh, yeah, you can put those headphones on. Try those on. We're having a Cinamaker moment right now where we're double checking. No. Leave it plugged in and then try it on. Yeah, put it on. Put it on. Tell me your name, where you're from.
Al Stewart. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
That's fine. Good. Savannah, Georgia?
Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta. Oh, so you were born and raised here.
Yes, sir.
So your dad was doing comics here in Atlanta a long time ago?
Yeah.
And what kind of comics were
80s.
these?
They were doing
For
just
who? Like what?
action comics. He wasn't working professionally. He was working with his group of friends. But my father was doing everything. He is a jack of all trades, basically. So he used to take me out a lot of times, and we go and paint signs around the city. We paint murals.
He was doing art project stuff.
Yeah, he was doing all types of stuff. Some sculpture, a little bit of everything.
So that was his job, or that's what he did as
That's
a hobby?
what he did. His job before he started going full-time freelance, he used to work as in a screen press in a photographic print studio. That was like, do you remember Atlanta Blueprint? Probably
I
don't
do.
know.
I do.
Yeah, he used to work for Atlanta Blueprint.
Oh, nice.
A long time ago with the big stack cameras and everything, the vacuum seal with freaking 15-foot photographic paper and stuff like that. Yeah, I used to run back and forth in there with him.
So you had like a awesome beginning.
Yeah.
Already near all that stuff.
I remember exposing
Okay,
like
yeah.
stacks of photographic paper on accident because I just turned on the light.
What do you think about that? You okay? That's crazy. That is cool. So you should. That's why when you say I don't draw as much, it's like, but you're drawing so much right now. I guess compared to you growing up and the access that you had,
Right.
Because you may have a full-time job,
Yes.
but you've been working on comics, on your own personal comic.
That's why people look shocked at me when I say I'm actually retired now. I'm retired from doing like commission stuff, you know.
Oh, I see.
So
You work on your own personal stuff.
exactly. I've never had a real chance to like focus on my own personal stuff. I have over 30 years. I'm gonna be 40 this year, but I already got 30 years worth of professional, work.
Wow.
You know, so yeah.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the early years. Because if you're going to be 40, when's your birthday?
Halloween.
Halloween? All right. A little scary. So that means, and you're talking about 30 years, so you were 10. What are your memories of being 10 years old? What kind of artwork were you working on besides
Logo
what you were?
designs, T-shirt designs, wall murals.
Because being around your dad, you saw the freelance.
Right.
And you're like, all right, I'll make some money too.
And he was in the video games and stuff like that too. So he introduced me to video games technology, and so I got into like computer art real early, and so on. So he had me doing, because we used to have a little spot in 5 Points, 5 Points Flea Market. Mm-hmm. So we had a spot in there doing T-shirts.
I don't know if that place still exists, but I remember. So I had some art T-shirt joint, huh?
Yep, doing T-shirts there, and then he had me. Then I started working. This was like maybe when I was like 12 or 13, and then I started running the digital print area. We used to take pictures, and then you hot press it onto a T-shirt, mugs, different things like that, buttons, pins.
Dang.
So I ran that whole section by myself.
You
know, so yeah, it was just doing all that.
Right.
You know,
that's
for a long
cool.
time.
And so did you go to traditional school? Did you go to middle school and high school?
Basically, my father was my art teacher up until, I would say, high school, and then ended up going to Tri-Cities School for the Arts for the Magna program.
Okay,
And
I
then-
did hear about that. Huh?
Yeah.
Nice. And what part of town did y'all live? Down that way?
So I was born in East Point, and then they moved to Union City. I was raised in Union City, and I went to school in Union City, then Fairburn, and then East Point.
Okay.
So I kind of went full circle.
Still came back to where you were started, huh?
Because my father had a studio in East Point also
I
with
see.
Alpha Community Center at the time.
Nice.
Over there. So I would go to the school and then walk to his studio after school.
So when you were in high school, did you take any art classes? Were you involved in the arts, any arts programs?
Absolutely. The Magnet Arts program basically,
Because it's right.
at that time, it was, you couldn't go, at that time, you couldn't go without an interview. Then had to do a summer program. And then when you went there, technically you were already entered in the AP Art.
Okay.
And so you would have to stay. You have your regular art class during the day, and then at 4 o'clock, that's when magnet art class would start, and that was from 4 to 5:30.
Okay.
And so all the magnet kids, be it magnet music, magnet drama, or whatever, we'd leave school at 5:30. You know, where all the other kids would be going at like 3 or 3 something. You know, so yeah, we did a little bit of everything. We had 3D sculpture, we had painting, you know, photography class, things like that. So we would do all that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so did you have in mind a career that you wanted to take on after high school, or were you doing the thing that you wanted to do already with art?
You know, I never really had a solid goal on what I wanted to do until like I got to Japan. Really, I settled on wanting to do something.
Okay. So when you went to Japan, you were still exploring your creative side?
Honestly, when I went to Japan, like most of the from 2006 to 2009, I didn't draw. Really, I didn't really draw anything. And then, like in 2009, I got a computer, and that was an event in itself. But then I started drawing again because I got into a friend of mine. I was talking to him about, you know, how I didn't really have the motivation anymore and things like that. And it was
had you spent yourself already?
Right. And he was like, yo, check out Deviant Art. And that's when I realized like everybody has a different way to be motivated about art. And for myself, I found that I get motivated when I'm around other creatives and I see what other people are doing. And when I found Deviant Art, I looked on there, I was like, wow, this cat is doing this guy's doing this, you know, she's doing that, and so on. And it got me really excited. And then I was like, let me join this group called Battle Artists. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I heard, yep.
And so I started doing that. And, you know, I did a few competitions. I won a few, lost a few, but I was like, yeah, this is really good. I need to like do something and focus on it, get back into something. So I was like, yeah, let me do comics. And so I just created some bull characters that I didn't really care about. It's the first time I ever created a character based on myself. And so I had to throw my god brother in, who's like one of the closest people to me. So I was like, I'm gonna do a story about me and my god brother. We're gonna be like detectives or something like that. There was really no basis, no foundation for it or anything. I was just like, I'm gonna do it and I'll stop whenever I feel comfortable, because I was really getting back into how digital art worked. I needed to figure out how comics worked in a digital media, and then get used to doing it, you know, regularly. And that's kind of how Counteragent started. So Counteragent started in 2009, you know, when I finally settled on Counteragents, like the name and stuff like that. And I went back and forth with that. And it really,
and you were in Japan then?
Right. And it really wasn't supposed to be anything. It was just going to be a sandbox, you know, where I just play with stuff, figure things out, see what filters do, how am I going to do my text in Photoshop, just Photoshop, and, you know, should I cut it like this? How should I export it? How do I put it up on the website? Do I code the website? I really hate coding. And so
but you did your own website anyway.
I did everything for a little while. And fortunately, my god brother is like, he's a beast with coding and stuff like that. So, yeah, I just let him run that site.
Right. That's cool. So here you are trying art just for fun, which is really the big focus that we all need to have when we start. And we all somehow come into art because of it's an experience that we just want to get into. And so here you are doing that. You're in Japan. You're teaching English. Somehow you got that opportunity to travel abroad. And then you discover that, hey, you kind of like this. You're going to keep doing that. And you're back in ATL in 2012.
Right.
And so when does Counteragents become a real comic that you start publishing yourself?
You know what? Counteragents, to this day, I kind of feel like Counteragents never really became a real comic that I'm actually proud of, because it's to the end of Counteragents, it was still an experiment, you know. And if you read Counteragents, you'll notice the style dramatically changes throughout chapters.
Mm-hmm.
In some chapters it changes like right in the middle of the story.
Okay.
You know? And it's just, you know, learning. That's what made it fun. And so I would say, because when I first started Counter Agents, I was doing like a page a week. And then I kind of dropped off because I started doing more battle artists and producing some fan art and stuff like that. 'Cause you got to do some fan art in a way to try to get people's attention and stuff and things like that. So then I started working on it more. Then I took a long hiatus because all these other ideas, things that I really, really wanted to do, started popping into my head. Like ISSHO NI started popping up, and then a couple of other stories, a short story that I had called Rage, which I kind of started, but then kind of faded off. And I had the 10th Son, which is another story that I like to do. So I got several stories, but that was the thing that was bugging me because those are stories I really, really wanted to do. And Counter Agents was just a whim in that way. But then I started getting a following for Counter Agents, and I was like, I can't leave people hanging. You know, I gotta
yeah. Where does it go?
And I do want to finish it, you know. So, yeah, I think honestly, about 2013, I really started getting back into Counter Agents and started, you know, getting the fire under me to, you know, produce the pages. And then I started producing like whenever I could.
Because this whole time you have a job.
Right.
So you're going to work and doing stuff and then coming home and.
Right. Well, basically with my job now is it's when I first got back here is a little tougher because when I started working for like a rental magazine company doing some of the graphic stuff, like, fixing photos and things like that. When they take a picture and the grass is kind of rotted out in this area, they say, "Hey, put some grass right there." You know, I put the grass in there. They say, "Hey, can you turn that light on in the bathroom?" I was like, "Yeah, I turned the light on in the bathroom." You know, things like that. Once I got done with that, I get home, I don't want to look at a computer no more.
Right.
You know, and so that's what happened to me. And everybody's different, but for me, using my art for the sole purpose of making money for other people, you know, other people's dreams, I started losing passion for that. And I noticed that once I got done with their stuff, I didn't want to do anything. And so I was like, I need to do something else, some other type of job that I don't have to really even think about. You know, I just do it when I leave. It's not even on my mind. So when I go home, I can draw, do whatever, and that's what I'm doing now. It pays the bills. I don't have to worry about my bills. So all that stuff is taken care of, and I have plenty of free time. You know, so after work, I go to Starbucks or whatever, and I just crank out some pages.
So how do you find that energy, the creativity, that inspiration to work on your own personal project after spending a day working on other people's properties or the day job?
Well, because I'm not using my creative mind at work, I'm technically, and like I said, my job is really kind of just type this, you know, and put it in there. So it's kind of mindless in a way.
Okay.
But it does help, you know, with other people's stuff. So during that time also, when I get into them, I'm scanning stuff like that. And sometimes at my job, the type of work I do, we scan a lot of stuff. And meanwhile, while I'm scanning, it does it itself, basically. I'm thinking
a lot of automation stuff.
I'm thinking about pages. I'm thinking about stuff. So when I'm done, when it's time to punch the clock, I'm like, ooh, I got to draw this, you know? And I just go and I just start drawing and get work done.
I like that.
And then I'm waiting on traffic to die down anyway, so it helps out too.
I like that, where you are doing something in your everyday life, but in the back of your head, that comic is calling.
Yeah.
The stories are calling. Your characters are calling.
Yeah.
This is awesome. We're going to ask a couple more questions. I want to take a moment to give a shout out to everybody who's still watching. Please leave a comment, leave a link. Let us know what you're working on. What is your passion? What is the art life? What is going on in the art life with you right now? And let us know how we're doing. What's some feedback that you like to, or some questions that you'd like to have for Al Stewart? Because we're going to talk about some show off some of his artwork, and let you see some of the projects that he's been working So let's say, so now you find the time for yourself. You're feeding your lifestyle with your job, and now you're doing this comic thing. And but you said something about not doing any more freelancing work, or that you don't have to do art for other people. What were some of the things that you were doing, and then what made you eventually stop?
So basically, I was mostly doing branding things like logo designs, brochures, T-shirt design, general imaging for. This is Atlanta, so I mean, especially now, there's thousands of music artists, things like that, and tons of like, I need a logo for this, I need a logo for my production company, I'm a rapper, I need like a album cover and things like that. So it was great to be able to. It's always great to be able to make people's dreams come true.
Yep.
Especially when you do that logo or that image, and they're like, yes, that's perfect. You know, it just completely satisfies you. So in a way, I guess on the flip side, I wanted to feel the same way they felt when things were complete.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So when I think about, like, when I produce my comic, I want it's that feeling that I got when I finally settled, because the first Counter Agents logo was like, that's okay, you know. But then a later one, I was like, that's it, you know. When I started getting the style for how I wanted to do the covers from then on out, and like that's one thing you'll notice is the covers start dark first, then they all go light, you know. And so when you feel that what you're drawing, like all the lines line up perfectly, and it's like for you, it's a different type of feeling, you know. It's a different type of rush when you do something for yourself perfectly.
Nice.
You know. So that's another reason, and then just, you know, being able to finally complete something for yourself. Like, honestly, the last 3 chapters of Counter Agents, I hated Counter Agents so much. I hated it. I was so tired of it. I was like, it's taking all my life. I can't do any other projects.
Let's look at some of those images as he's talking about it. It had enveloped everything.
Right.
Huh?
I couldn't do any other projects other than Counter Agents. It was like soul sucking, you know, in a way. And in the back of my mind, every time I'm doing Counter Agents, it's like, you're not really supposed to be here. You know, I didn't make you to last this long. Why are you 321 pages?
Wow.
You know,
right.
So it's like, but once I completed it, I still kind of feel bitter that it took so much of my time, because I could have did so many other things.
Yeah.
But at the other side of the spectrum, it's like, yes, it's done.
Right.
I have a finished book.
You climbed the complete mountain.
And technically, it's not one finished book. It is a collection of 15 books, you know, that are all anywhere between 15 to 20-something pages, you know, and it's complete, fully colored, you know. There's some editing issues, of course. I'm a one-man studio. Right. You know, I was trying to crank things out by myself, and really, you know, I wasn't really focused on perfection, because it wasn't supposed to be perfection. It was supposed to be a whim.
A fun thing.
Right.
Whim.
And it became a little more serious.
Yeah.
You know,
we're going to talk about your tools in a second. I know we're running a little bit on time, and it's okay. If you're tuning in to this live stream, I want you to stay with us if you can. I know if you're at work or at home or whatever, don't worry about it. Just stay tuned with us, and we got a lot of good stuff to cover. In the meantime, let me check on some of these messages, because we got some good stuff here. Rick Clear is a good friend of mine, awesome videographer, been doing the video for a long, long time. It says, looking so good, sounds good, looks very professional. Thank you, I've been working on that. Mr. Alan Cosetas says, Dan the man, great artist. Oh, they're talking to me, you know. Sounds great. And this is what the real community media is supposed to be: positive programming moments to build community, promote good people, and doing good things. Kudos, DTM, and his guests. And then Jennifer, it says, this is an awesome forum, Dan. I love hearing about how other artists find time to create. Thank you. Cool. And I think this is exactly what this is about, is we want to share the knowledge and resources that we've all been working on and building, and our methods and processes, so that it allows others to see that it's possible. If that's something that you want to do, if you feel motivated, if you feel inspired and to jumping into creativity, then you need to do that. Even if it is on a whim that ends up taking over your life. How many years now? That's 2009, you say?
2009 to
so 2019. Oh, no, you ended it last year, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, year before.
Oh, you ended it 2 years ago? Yeah. I feel like it was recent.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Wow, man.
It was a trip.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So let's talk about some of your tools. I know that in the 10 years that you worked on it, the tools changed. You mentioned Photoshop, but the last few years you've been working on the iPad Pro.
Right.
And now you got the fancy, pretty new one now. Jealous? No. So tell us about your evolution in tools.
Yeah, so I started with Photoshop in like high school. I got a hands on Photoshop, not 6, not 5, Photoshop.
It was called Photoshop. It supported 3 layers.
Right, yeah. And it didn't have like a lot of the stuff on there that you have, like all these filters and things like that. Masking, I don't even think masking was on there at first. So,
wow.
So when I started with when I started with Counter Agents, that's actually when Adobe first started the subscription service, and that's why I got it. And that was my first Mac that I had ever had too.
Okay.
So I started working on that. I had a Wacom 12.9 inch because that took forever to get $1,000 and I couldn't get 2,000.
Yeah.
So
it was a tablet or the on-screen drawing?
The on-screen.
On-screen drawing. You were drawing on screen. It has a name. I forget.
Cintiq.
The Cintiq. Yeah. Okay.
So I did Cintiq 12.9.
Nice.
And it was great. I loved it. I worked in Photoshop. I worked in Dreamweaver to work on the website.
For the website, huh? Dang.
Then I started learning Adobe Edge a little bit. Getting with that, but like I said, I stopped working on the website. Got my god brother to do that in, so I don't know exactly what he did with it, but he banged it out. Then iPad Pro came out, and I think I got the 2nd edition one. And that was a whole process. And it wasn't a process of learning how to produce in it. It was a process of the pipeline.
Right.
How to go from working with the iPad to putting it to the website, because exporting and everything like that was way different. And then I started working with Procreate. Procreate was beautiful. It was probably one of the most simple to get used to programs out there, and I loved it, but it was missing. It was at that time it was lacking a lot of features that Photoshop had that it made you want those Photoshop features. And so I was exporting to Photoshop to finish up some things like text and so on, because there's no text feature in Procreate.
They just updated it on Monday. Yes, when was Monday? Today is Monday.
Yeah.
This morning.
So
Last night, this morning, yeah.
I have to update now.
Yeah, they added text.
But that's when why can't I think of his name right now? He introduced me to the Comic Draw at one of the event that one time. And Comic Draw has been like,
oh, you've been using that now?
Amazing. I don't draw in it, but bringing my work to it and dropping text is probably one of the easiest programs I've used. And it memorizes the type of text. It memorizes the how the bubble looks, everything like that. You can do your onomatopoeias in it and all types of stuff. It's a great program. So right now, I'm using basically 3 programs for my new project, which Procreate. I produce my work in Procreate, and then I take it to Comic Draw, put my text down, and then I take it to Affinity Photo to slice it up. And that was another program that is just beautiful. It
it's
is
pretty awesome.
basically Photoshop. You know, it takes some time getting used to, and like I said, I generally don't draw in it, but I use like some of the features that I'm missing from Photoshop, like slicing and things like that, and exporting from it. It's real simple too.
That's what you're working on. Let's see some of his artwork. Let's pull it up. And so tell us about this new project. What is it called, and why do you call it that?
It's called ISSHO Ni. ISSHO Ni is Japanese for together. It's basically about, it's based in Japanese folklore from the beginning. Later on, there'll be more. But it's basically about the yokai realm, which are spirit demons in Japanese folklore. And one of the main character, which you see right now, her name is Miku. She's been trapped in the human realm, kind of banished in a way. And so she's also trapped in her current form. Because most yokai can shapeshift and things like that. She can no longer do that, but she's been trapped in the human realm for like thousands of years.
And that's the one who makes waffles?
Right. And so at this point, after she's been through a lot of stuff in like over 1,000 years, we come to a point when things are starting to go down because someone is trying to overthrow the yokai realm. And so some of the guardians from the yokai realm come to the human realm to try to recruit her, saying it's her obligation to do it. But, you know, she's been exiled, basically. So she's like, what obligations do I have? And so part of it is her trying to regain her power because the human realm affects yokai or spirit creatures by weakening their powers and things like that. And also, part of her banishment, she was punished. And so a lot of her powers were taken away. So she has to regain her powers and then fight this evil that's taking over the yokai realm because eventually it will come over into the human realm.
And that's it. Essentially, that's the story. And it has a ton of different characters that come from different places.
Exactly. And that's one of the main things I wanted to do was to do, I wanted to hit most basically races that aren't really touched, you know, and I wanted to hit those cultures and the folklore and things like that. Cause I like, that's part of the reason why I sort of recruited you to do some tattoos for one of the characters. His name is Matthias. And like, he's Azteca tattoos and things like that. And yeah, I don't want to go too deep into like I want people to read to find out about him. You know? But basically his history, I wanted a lot of the history to be authentic. So I'm talking to friends that speak Spanish and things like that. I didn't want his Spanish to be Google Translate. You know? I wanted his Spanish to be natural. And so one of the things I am doing in the comic is when people speak other languages, I'm just going to put the other language. I'm not translating it.
What?
I'm just
people gotta look it up.
Right. You know, that's just how it is, you know, because that's how it would be in real life. If you came into the environment, like if you went into like a Korean store and they're all Koreans in there and they're all speaking Korean, you're gonna sit there not knowing what's going on unless you can speak it. You know, so that's one of the things I want to do. I mean, there's not going to be like whole pages that are just like other language and stuff.
Right.
There'll be plenty of English people, plenty of English. But
you're doing it however you want. It's your world, right? It's your creation, your characters. They don't have to align to what people say needs to be.
Right. Yeah. So there will be some Japanese in there that they speak and things like that. But all the spirit characters in the human realm, they are in human form. The thing about becoming human form, they never know what type of race they will be or what like that. So it could be anything. And that's why Miku, being of Japanese folklore, she's not Japanese, she's black. You know, she had no choice in it. But later on in the story, you'll find out there's a reason why she's in the body that she's in.
Okay, very cool. And so what are some of the social medias that we need to find you in? I know Indigo Inc.
Indigo Inc. on Instagram.
That's the NDGO INK.
Right. And that's my personal page where you can see some of my work on ISSHO Ni currently, some of my previous work from Counter Agents, and some fan art that I do. I also do a series of black female comic heroes. Every now and then I do like a portrait or a pinup of some little known black female comic heroes. Then I also have ISSHO Ni Web Comic, on Instagram also.
Okay.
That one's just getting started, but I will be posting basically work in progress, things like that.
When's the comic actually launched?
I plan on launching the comic in August, like just before OnyxCon.
Okay.
And it'll be my first time going to a con, presenting at a con, basically. And so I'll be launching it, and I will have, I hope to have some samples that people can purchase, because this is going to be a web comic.
Okay.
And it's going to be featured on Webtoon.
All right.
Once I do it, so it is a specific format.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, basically early August.
Nice. Give yourself enough time to have enough content that when you start posting and sharing, you're not stressed out about your deadlines and so on.
Exactly.
That's cool, man. All right, that's awesome. That's awesome. I want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to leave a comment. Leave your comments here. We're going to read them. We're going to make sure that we answer them. I am DeltaTangoMike. This is Al Stewart. Tell us what indigo means, because for a long time that's been the website and your Instagram or Twitter, and you changed the Instagram, because that used to be your Instagram, I think, wasn't it? Indigo?
Yeah, it was NDGO at first, but I wanted to stick with the brand.
The new
which
brand
was Indigo Inc.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So in various places I was Indigo Inc. and then other places like formerly when Counter Agents was online, it was at indigoinc.com. And so that's one place that I will use. So Indigo Inc. is my brand and my company, Indigo Inc. Publishing.
Okay.
The Indigo Inc. is just indigo, the color indigo.
I know, that's my color. Blue's my color.
Yeah, exactly. So that's me too. So I just, that was basically it.
Nice. Cool. So let's get to the last question of the day, and then we'll say our goodbyes. Thank you for everybody who's been sticking around. We're at the Cinamaker Studios. We're using Cinamaker app to stream to Facebook. We're using several different cameras, and we got Josephine back there. And as you can see, you can take a look at the iPad where she is changing the camera angle to give us the multi-cam feel and quality to this live stream.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's cool, huh?
Yeah.
I didn't get you on that. Yeah. So you can live stream some of your work in progress. We need to do that. So let's ask the last question today. If you were to talk to, that's a very good. To Al of the beginning at Counter Agents, what kind of advice would you give?
Take it more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Focus on it a little bit more. Really take it more seriously. Put more into it, and all the tricks and cheat techniques that I learned down the road, I would give all those to try to help the process, because it's real hard getting used to things again after you've been at it for so long. And the beauty of it is having a good, strong foundation of fine art. You start there, and then you learn techniques to help you, and get out there and talk more early to some of these other artists and some of these social networks to learn more, because I started learning a little bit slow from some of these other artists on how they kind of cheat. Don't be afraid to cheat is one of my biggest things. Every industry cheats, especially in animation and things like that. There's tons of cheats. And don't be afraid to put up crap sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes you may not draw that character perfectly, but in order to get something done, sometimes if that panel is not that important, it doesn't need to be perfect. Because with a comic book, most people look at a panel for maybe 5 seconds, especially if there's no words in it. Then you drop it down to 2 seconds. So it's the big pictures that matter.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yes, sir.
ISSHO NI Web Comic. That is the Instagram.
Right.
Go check it out. Follow so you can get updates on what's happening and be ready for August. I am DeltaTangoMike. You can find me anywhere on the internet, DeltaTangoMike. Check out artistking_ATL. And for some tutorials and live streams on digital art, check out Vector Maestros. And that is all for us today. Thank you for being here. We'll see you next time. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. All right. Peace out. I was posting all over the place.